Welcome back to the show. Today we have Blaine Bertsch. He's the CEO and co-founder at Dryrun. Blaine, welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you back on the show. I think what you guys are doing with Dryrun is really cool. And you were actually on the radio version a while ago, and I thought, let's check in with you and kind of see what you guys are up to. But maybe before we kind of get into Dryrun, maybe let's give the listener a little bit of an overview on yourself and get to know kind of where you grew up and where you went to school.
Sure. Well, I'm from Edmonton, Alberta, in Canada. I went to the University of Alberta, and I took both my undergrad and my master's at the U of A in design. I'm a designer by trade. A graphic designer, but I got into digital media kind of right off the hop. So I've been working kind of in digital media design and software design really since about '96 when I graduated, and so it's been quite a while now. I guess it's going on 20 years. Yeah.
So walk me through kind of what is Dryrun and why did you decide to found it?
Well, Dryrun is a cloud-based tool that helps small business owners and their accountants as well manage their cash flow, manage their sales pipeline, and just compare scenarios to really understand how the finances are looking in their business going forward, forecasting out what their quarter is going to look like, what the year is going to look like, but also just looking what's next week look like. Am I going to get paid on time? Do I have to pay a big bill I'm not quite ready for? So it's really, it's a planning tool, it's an optics tool, and but the big thing with Dryrun is we're trying to keep it, really straightforward, really simple to tackle a very complex problem that businesses face.
Sure. So who's your kind of target market for Dryrun?
Well, our target market we found is a lot broader than we originally thought. To be honest, we have customers from a couple dozen countries already.
Wow, that's awesome.
I'm online with them. Yeah, it's so cool. I'm online with them almost daily, talking with them. We do online demos. They're from all over the world. It's really interesting, but it's this unifying factor of business and cash flow. And so the problems are the same in virtually any continent, any country in the world. Sure. It's the same stuff. And so it's kind of interesting to see that it's a very sort of horizontal market in that way. It's very global. Tends to be small businesses when they get to the point where things start to get a little bit too complex. We find that once a business has a number of employees, maybe a location, they're bringing in inventory, larger scale projects. That's when they start to hop into Dryrun, and then we have customers up to where they have hundreds of staff and multiple users using Dryrun from different locations, different positions in the company, that sort of thing. So it really is there to help them just grapple with the tough day-to-day and where are we headed financials, where traditionally a lot of financials for small business, especially when you're talking with accountants, is often they're only given access to past data. And so accountants actually a lot of times, they can't even offer that much advice because they don't have a way to look forward and say, hey, it looks like you're going to have a dip this summer. It looks like you're going to have a cash flow crunch a month and a half out. So we give both the business owner, and a lot of times they work with their accountant or an advisor on Dryrun. Sometimes they don't, it just depends, but it gives them all those optics to know where they're headed, make those kind of business-changing, life-changing decisions of the things that, flagging potential issues, but also helping them understand we may need to grow, we might need to expand. How do we do that? When do we do that?
Got you. Okay, so is it kind of like, do you have startups as clients as well, or is it kind of more like service companies?
We have some startups. We find that it tends to be companies that are a little bit more seasoned, to be honest. And it's kind of a funny thing. I think startups, when we talk with advisors that work with startups, they know how critical this is. Startups are in a very difficult position generally with cash flow. They have to watch that burn rate. They have limited resources. They should be using Dryrun. I'll be honest with you, we find a lot of times the startups that use Dryrun are a little more seasoned, and it's business owners that have been through the trenches a little bit and kind of have had some bumpy parts. They know how critical it is, how important it is. So A lot of times it's a little bit bigger business, kind of we sort of try and characterize it around the $500,000 to $5 million a year revenue is our average. That's kind of the sweet spot.
Gotcha.
We do some bigger ones. We do a lot of smaller ones. Again, probably a little bit more seasoned when they're smaller.
Sure. That makes sense. So kind of walk, I guess, like me and kind of the viewer through kind of how do I use it kind of on a daily basis?
Yeah, and it's now there's a couple different ways. Dryrun integrates with some of the really popular accounting tools. We integrate with Xero, QuickBooks Online. We also integrate with PipeDrive, and we've got a few more in the works as well. So a lot of times when you're working with an accountant, or if an accountant a lot of times will use Dryrun and set their clients up, and they can both log in, or sort of anything that sort of works in this circumstance. It will pull in basically your bills and your invoices. So essentially what we say is build a budget in Dryrun. You can build a really powerful repeating budget so it goes well into the future. You can plan out your budget. If you know that your rent's going up, you're opening a location 3 months down the road, you're adding staff, you can plan all of that out in Dryrun, and it's going to run forever. And so it's really a powerful budgeting tool. Then we basically pull in invoices into a receivable section, your bills into a payable section. And a cool thing we do now is we flag when bills are due and when they're overdue. And we even have a feature now, if a bill is overdue, we actually just bump it up to today. So even if you have a bill that was like a month ago, 2 months ago, we don't want you to miss that you have that bill. As soon as you log into Dryrun, it shows up. If you're looking in a monthly view, daily, weekly, whatever, it shows up right there, and man, I gotta call those people, make sure that we're getting paid. So it helps you in that way, where you're basically going, I got my budget and I got my inflows and outflows of that variable cash that really affects my cash flow. Now we also have a lot of customers that are basically moving from a spreadsheet into Dryrun, and they can do all the same thing manually. Of course, the benefit when you're using, let's say, Xero or QuickBooks Online is every time you refresh your data, it pulls all those invoices and bills in automatically. It'll mark them if they've been paid. Any sort of changes, it updates all that automatically.
Okay, no, that's great. I think that makes a lot of sense, and it's interesting because I think you were on the show almost about a year ago now, and just to see kind of where you've been and kind of now where you guys are. How do you think the business has kind of changed in the last year? As you get more customers and you add more features, like how would you say it's kind of changed?
The one part is the product has got a lot more sophisticated, and it continues to do so. Like we've got some really cool development going on, especially in the area to help advisors and accountants use Dryrun, and some features that'll help a little bit bigger businesses. Again, we're always focused on keeping Dryrun really simple for our users, but we try and add a lot of power under the hood. If they want the power, it's going to be there. So the product has changed a lot. We have our team has grown. We're still really small, but we've got some really great people sort of helping out, and now it's becoming much more a task of letting people know we're around. It's much more a marketing problem now. We hear from customers every day. We hear from people that sign up for trials every day. They're asking us interesting questions. The more conversation we have, the more users we have, the more we learn. So our understanding of our customer, our understanding of what they need and the product has grown a lot over the last year, and the product's just growing right alongside of it. So now it's all about letting enough people know. If enough people know about it, they're going to love it. They're going to use it.
Sure. So how are you kind of going about marketing and getting the word out there?
Well, a big part of it is, it's kind of the typical sort of startup issue is there's no
Sure.
single magic bullet. There's no one way to do it. We recently redesigned our entire website and doubled our conversion overnight.
Really? Wow.
So that was my new marketing director. That was her advice. Basically, she came in and said that we really need to overhaul this because it's not only was it not converting as well as it should, it also was kind of hampering us SEO-wise, like search engine optimization-wise. And so that's the other side, is we're spending a lot of time making sure that the people can find us when they're looking for us. So we have a content marketing plan. So we do weekly blog posts. We have some more content marketing initiatives underway as well that we're going to be rolling out kind of in the coming months as well. And then, of course, we're just starting to kind of dip our toe into the pay-per-click ad space. And that's another whole section where we're trying to figure out that sort of funnel and that process and making sure that we're sending the right message out. People understand what we're doing, and then they can come and check us out. And we're confident if the right people find us, they sign up for a free trial, and a lot of them are going to find value and sign up as customers. But it's that's just such a tricky puzzle to find the right people without spending just horrendous amounts of money trying to let everybody know. How do we get to those really specific people? So.
Sure. No, I think that's great. And I know we covered it kind of in the radio version, but we didn't really cover it earlier in the show. Obviously, you were a business owner yourself, and you obviously were the trained designer that started their own firm. And so how do you find, obviously you have tons of experience being a business owner and you're a designer. How do you find building a startup as a designer when you're not really usually traditionally it's kind of a developer maybe that starts, and I think it's good. I love when designers start companies, but how have you found that kind of the pros and cons of having a design background?
Well, it's all pros having a design background
Sure.
from my point of view. The big gap early on in Dryrun's sort of history was our development capability, our technical capability, and I now have a co-founder he's basically developed the version you see today of Dryrun was after kind of our MVP product. He rebuilt the entire thing and is continuing to drive that forward. And I couldn't do that without having that
Sure.
technical capability that is that outstanding. But from the design side, what I really appreciate, I suppose, is my background in understanding the needs of the user and always trying to simplify, always trying to understand them better. And to figure out how do we translate their needs into the product. So it's not necessarily what they ask for directly. Sometimes it is, but a lot of times it's better understanding their needs and saying, okay, how do we deliver that and make it easy, make it straightforward, make it intuitive. That's a really important task for a startup is to the more conversations and information you can get from your customers, the more you talk with them and understand their needs and try and figure out how do we translate that. That's the real key to making a really terrific product. And then, of course, having a great team to be able to actually build that out. My co-founder has a very strong sort of sense in making things easier for the user as well, which is really terrific in having someone that's on the technical side and the development side, but still a really strong appreciation for the user and for the design sort of sensibility as well. So that definitely helps. But those are kind of, it's like having a three legs on a stool, and you have to have this. You have to have the design side, that front end, that product side, the building out something that works and that's comfortable and functional and beautiful and pleasurable to use as well. Then you have to have that technical side where you're building something that works and is rock solid and has that engine as well. And then the third stool is the one we're struggling with now, and it's kind of new to us, is how do we tell people about it? How do we market it? So that's kind of where we're at right now.
No, I think that's good, and I think that's really good advice, because I think not all startups, but a lot of startups kind of do the development and then bring in a designer after to kind of theme what they've already been built. But design's a lot more than just putting an interface on something. It's really about how does the user get from here to there, or do this workflow, right? And that's kind of why I asked you the question, because I think it's really good advice where you have yourself as the designer, you have your technical co-founder, and you guys work together to say what's buildable, what's designable, and what makes the most sense for the user, because you can spend a lot of time redoing stuff or theming stuff that is just broken, right? From a workflow perspective.
Yeah, and you can't build and then slap a design on something. That's how you get a five-wheeled car with a seat facing backwards, and you're trying to work around it. The starting point again is always it's not even the design. The starting point is the problem and what are you trying to accomplish, and working your way through. And the design, the process to go through of understanding the problem, going through the wireframing and the pencil sketches and the conversations and the whiteboards, all the way up to the point where you actually start putting a face on it. And Tarek is my co-founder. We were just on the call yesterday we were literally on the phone for 2 hours.
Wow.
On Skype here, of course. And because we're rolling out a new feature set, we're working on it. And we had got to the point where I was putting kind of a bit of a skin on and a look at the UI, so that we had basically a discussion point. And you're working your way through, but the whole conversation is trying to understand, like, what is the user going to see, and does it make sense to them? Designing it actually isn't that difficult. Actually, technically, building this feature out isn't real difficult. Understanding how the user is going to use it can be really, really complicated. And it was such a challenge. And by the end of our, it's like you feel like you've just been through a marathon by the end. But like, yeah, you know what? I kind of get it. I've moved a few steps forward. He's moved a few steps forward. We've simplified some things. And now you go back to that design process. So we still have to go through some more design process hoops before I can come back. We kind of all agree and go, yeah, this is exactly what we're going to build. And then you build it out, and then you test it, and then invariably you're going to make some changes after you have the live thing that you're testing as well. So it's definitely a back and forth process. It's a lot messier than people think.
Sure.
When you try and clean the process up, it's going to break apart. You have to have a lot of messiness, conversations, debates about things to look at, talking with all sorts of different people. That's how you move forward. You can't be in a dark room designing away and think that's going to work.
Sure. No, I think that's really good advice, and I love kind of having people like yourself on the show that kind of come at it from the design side and are willing to talk about kind of the process of that. But I'm curious, and I'm always kind of curious. How did you meet your co-founder?
Honestly, it was. I just got really lucky. It was kind of a friend of a friend sort of thing. When I was moving to transition from an offshore development team for our MVP, that I know I've talked with you about this. It didn't work well for me. In that circumstance, I've had an offshore team do some of our front end design work on our website, and it's unbelievable. So if you have the right team, it really doesn't matter where they're at. But in that case, I really needed some help, and at that point, it was really trying to kind of fix what we had, and we thought, okay, it's close. We can just kind of fix it and refine it. He ended up being just such a good fit, and we actually got to the point where we realized essentially we had to pivot. We had to rebuild the product, drive in, add in these integrations. We had to be able to work really well with accountants and advisors, and we had some real gaps there. And so it was a hard decision to make, but we ended up rebuilding the whole product, and that experience of sort of building that product out, and it didn't take long to realize, how important he was, and how much passion he had for the product as well, and for our customers, and for building this. And so it just worked out really, really well. And there just honestly was a lot of luck. And now I suppose that, I've got other people on our team that they're terrific too, and you can say that it's all luck, but I think a lot of times it's, in a way, I suppose you make your own luck.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Being out there, talking with people, knowing people, networking, understanding your needs, and opening up conversations and really digging, and then suddenly these people end up coming and working with you, and it just feels like a lot of luck, but I suppose they wouldn't come knock on the door.
Totally.
A lot of work and conversations. So,
but I think that's really good advice, because I think a lot of startups rebuild their, like, after a version or two, right? It's not uncommon. Like Twitter did it a few times, right? Like big name companies do that, and I think it's okay to do that, right? And throw away your kind of first MVP and rebuild from scratch when you kind of figure out where you need to take the thing, right? And so
yeah.
I think it's really good advice, and I love how you brought on a technical founder, and I also really believe as well that you kind of create your own luck, right? And yeah, you're lucky, but like you put out enough effort and time into networking and getting your name out in the community where people just start to kind of come to you at some point, right? And so I think that's really good advice. But we're kind of coming to the end of the show, so maybe let's close with mentioning where people can get more information about Dryrun online and try it out.
Yeah, absolutely. You just go to dryrun.com. It's an easy one to find, and we have a 30-day free trial. You can also sign up for a live online demo, so if you want us to walk you through before you maybe take a look at getting into a trial, you can do that. And once you've started your free trial, there's easy ways to get help and support right in Dryrun, and a really rapidly populated help site that we're working on as well. So we're trying to make it a lot easier to get people started and understand the tools. So definitely come try it out. Contact us if you have any questions. You can always email us at hello@dryrun.com. Easiest way to remember how to get hold of us and ask any questions you have.
That's great. Well, Blaine, I really appreciate you taking the time of your day to be on the show again, and I look forward to keeping in touch with you, and have a good rest of your day.
You too. Thanks, Kevin.
All right. Later. Bye.
Bye.